Welcome to the 13th video of my FPS character controller series. In this video, we are implementing bullet decals for the weapon manager you see on screen. That is simply just these little images that get painted in the world when you shoot or slash an object with the weapon. So the first thing we're going to do for this to create bullet decals is pretty simple, and Godot actually contains a decal class, so you can just inherit from the decal node and create a new scene based on that, and that is going to give you basically a decal that you can put an image on or a texture on, and then it will paint that texture onto the 3D world around you. And then also I'm going to add a GPU particles 3D node for little particle effects that kind of fly off the bullet decal to simulate when you shoot a wall, little debris falling off of it. So I'm going to include in the description the weapons asset pack, which is going to be all the assets, textures, and models that you need for following the weapon manager tutorial. This is a part of the larger weapon manager tutorial I'm doing. And in that pack, I have this bullet decal.png and knife decal.png that you're going to need to follow along with this tutorial. So yeah, right away you can just plop the bullet decal onto the albedo texture section of the decal node that you've created. And then also just to show what this is doing, I'm going to create a CSG box. You don't have to do this, but just to show, as you can see, it just pastes this texture over here. What a decal does is just gonna paste it onto the 3D world, so you can use that for things like bullets and whatnot, or anything you need to kind of paste onto a given wall. And so right now this decal texture looks faded because it's as you get further from the center of this decal box right here, it's kind of hard to see, but the further you get from the edges, it'll just start fading out to fully transparent, which is actually good because you want a pretty small decal, or it'll start to look weird, it'll draw on neighboring objects and stuff. But we're basically just gonna have it draw on walls, so as long as it draws on a very thin space, we're fine. So I'm actually gonna make this 0.086 because I know that's a good number, and just have it as a very small bullet decal that we're going to place directly on walls. And for the GPU particles 3D, you need to set the draw passes and the process material. So the particle process material is what you can customize, or a lot of the customization for how the particles should behave. And then the draw passes is where you set an actual particle skin. So I'm just going to do a basic quad mesh, set the standard material, and then you go to billboard, particle billboard, and that you can see is drawing. And then I'm also going to set the color to gray, 595959. And I'm probably going to decrease the size of this mesh too. I'll decrease it to 0.04 and 0.025. Alright, so after you set the size of the quad mesh to 0.04, 0.025, now you can see it's creating these little particles flying out of the bullet decal. So this is going to be when we hit the wall, it'll spawn the bullet decal, and then these particles will shoot out. But we want them exploding out the top of the bullet decal, so then you can go into the process material section of the GPU particle 3D, and then you can add a particle process material if you don't have one already. And then we're going to go through these, and first we can set up a spawn. So I want them to spawn at random angles, so I guess we'll just do 0 to 360. So it can spawn at any random angle. And then for the velocity, I want them to shoot out and up, so I'm going to set it to 0, 1, 0. And also you have to actually set the initial velocity for it to move at all, so I'm going to do 0.1 and 1. And then you can see it's already kind of shooting out. It's falling down really fast though. So the next thing I'm going to do is go into the accelerations tab, and I'm going to decrease the gravity from 0.98 to just -2. And then I'm also going to go under the animated velocity, angular velocity, and set it to maximum 31 for the angular velocity. And then you can see here, it kind of looks like it's like shooting out from the bullet decal. And that should be pretty much everything you need to edit in the particle process materials, just for like a simple like bullet explodey particle effect thing. And then we can go up to here. So like, because it's a bullet decal, like we're gonna like spawn it in the world and it's gonna stay there. So we don't want to just keep exploding out. So what we can do is make it a one-shot particle effect. And this will basically make it just turn off after it puts out whatever quantity of particles you set. I'm going to put mine at just 3. So now you can see it's like shooting out 3. And then what you can do is turn up the explosiveness setting as well, which makes it look a little bit better, I think. Put mine 0.69. And now you can see it like explodes out more all at once rather than like just continually emitting. So like, boom, the bullet hits, and then it kind of just like has all the particles fly out. And then another thing you can adjust here is the lifetime. This will make it faster. So I'm gonna put mine at 0.43 seconds. And now you can see it's a little bit faster when it shoots out the particles. And that's pretty much all you need to do for this GPU particles 3D and the bullet decal. It's just like a very basic thing where it, you know, places this texture on a wall. So boom, we're gonna shoot, and then it places the decal and shoots out these particles for a little like added effect. Now I'm just going to delete this CSG box 3D because I don't need that anymore. We're going to spawn it like on a wall where it will show the decal. And then I'm going to make a class called BulletDecalPool in my project. And then, yeah, it's not going to inherit anything. It's just going to be a like empty class, not a node or anything. And basically what we're going to use for this, I'm just going to make this the class called BulletDecalPool, and then I'll have a const variable I set here, max bullet decals. You can set this to whatever you want. I'll actually set it to like 5 just for demonstration purposes here. But basically there's going to be, whatever you set this to, that's going to be the maximum allowed number of bullet decals. So I'll call another variable here is static var bullet decal pool, or just decal pool, and I'm just going to assign that to an array. And we're also going to have like a static function, so you don't need any of the default functions here. We're going to have this static function spawn bullet decal. So if you haven't used static variables and functions in Godot, basically it just it's like a variable that sticks around, and we don't even need to instance this class. Like, we'll just be able to call it like bullet, like anywhere in any class in our code. Bullet decal pool spawn bullet decal. We can just like call it like that, like anywhere, and this class will like create and manage all the decals for us. And then we'll just save all the ones we spawn in this this decal pool array. And so the static function, we're going to need to pass it a global position. So that's like the position of where we want to spawn the bullet decal, the normal, so which direction the bullet decal should be pointing, and then a parent. So like this would be whatever rigid body or static body or whatever we're spawning the decal on. Like the reason we're spawning it on a parent is like if there's like a rigid body, like a box or a car or something, you shoot, and then the bullet decal goes on the car. If the car moves, the bullet decal should still be there, so it'll be parented to the car, so it'll be like permanently stuck on that car that we pasted the bullet decal on. And now for the actual logic of this function, I'll add it right now. And basically we're just going to check. The first check is going to be for if the length of the bullet decal, the decal pool array has already reached the maximum amount of bullet decals that are allowed. Then we'll check if the bullet decal instance, the first bullet decal pool instance is like a valid instance, because it'll be invalid if it got like deleted and it's not an actual valid node anymore. So if we have the maximum number of bullet decals and the first decal is legit, then we'll grab it out of the array, pop front, and then we will put it at the back of the array, which means it's like the newest one. And we're going to repurpose it to, so we're setting this decal instance variable, and we're going to repurpose it to whatever the latest position that the player shot at, to put the bullet decal at. So we'll do decal instance reparent and set it to whatever the parent we pass in this function is. Otherwise, so this will be the case if we don't already have the maximum amount of bullet decals. So like if there's still room in the decal pool, then we're just going to create a new decal instance, and I'm just going to preload in into code the scene. You can just drag it onto your code and preload it, packed scene cannot, and then also instantiate it too. So I'm instantiating this preloaded scene and plopping it in the decal instance variable there. And now for the rest of the code, we are going to do the same thing we did here, like when we're repurposing a bullet decal instance. And all this code, I'll link the project in the description, so you can just copy the code from the BulletDecalPool into your own project if you don't want to copy this from just watching the video. But yeah, we're just going to add the newly created decal instance to the parent in the case that there is room in the decal pool, and then push back the decal pool with the new instance, creating another bullet. And then there's one more case we have to handle. So this if instance is valid. So if it's not valid, like if it if the decal pool first element got like deleted for whatever reason, then we're just gonna like create a new one here, and so it will just like leave the invalid one in the first spot. So we have to check if the first instance is valid after we've added a new one, just to make sure like there's not an invalid one stacking up that's like clogging up our decal pool basically. So in that case, we'll just like clear it out of the decal pool because it would have gotten freed anyway. There's not going to be a memory leak if it's like, or if the node has already been freed. So yeah, the is instance valid, it returns true if the instance is a valid object, which means it has not been deleted from memory. So if the instance isn't valid, then we can just clear it from our decal pool, because we can assume it's been like the node has been freed and it's not in memory anymore. And then for the rest of the code here, for the global transform part of the code, we are going to use this. So the transform 3D has a constructor. You put the basis in, which is basically like the rotation, and then you put the position in. And then we're going to use this quaternion class, which is like a whole separate complicated topic of its own. But basically it has one constructor here that lets you do arc from, arc to. So it lets you like find a rotation which rotates it from one direction, or one like, yeah, direction it's pointing to another. So in this case, we want to rotate it from up. So like, because the bullet decal is going to be it's like pointing up in this scene, we rotate it from its natural starting up position towards the normal. So, and then you put that in the first argument of the transform 3D, which allows you to set the rotation. And then in the second argument, you put the position. So we're setting the position to the position we're passing in, which will be like the raycast hit pose. And then we are going to point the bullet decal like facing directly out the wall that it lands on. And we're setting the decal instance global transform to that. And then finally, because our GPU particles 3D, because we set them to one shot over here, it's not going to be like emitting by default, so you need to set the dot emitting to true. So it's basically just going to like click it on once as soon as it spawns in, and that will cause the particles to emit as the bullet hits the wall. And that is pretty much all the code that you need to add to get this working. And then in the in your weapon code, you probably have a raycast somewhere where you're checking if the gun has shot a wall or an object or a player or whatever. So in my case, I have this code where I check if the raycast is colliding, and I'm just going to do BulletDecalPool, and we made this a static function, so you can call it from anywhere. So I'm doing BulletDecalPool, spawn the bullet decal. This is the global position, so the raycast hit point that's colliding, and then the normal, so that'll be like the wall normal of the wall that the raycast hit, and then we'll pass in whatever object that we hit, like a wall or a building, car, whatever. Pass in the collision point, the normal, and the wall, and we call spawn bullet decal static function over here, which we can call from anything because it is static. And with that, it should work. So we have max bullet decal set to 5. And so now you'll see what happens. Basically, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then because there's only like a maximum of 5, it starts like recycling the bullet decals after that, and it only lets us have like a maximum of 5. And now this works pretty good, but I'm also going to add in a little bit more code because there's a slight problem with it now, which I didn't mention at first. And when I first did this, I didn't realize, but if you're trying to use that same code with like knife decals, you'll see it acts kind of weird. So like a knife decal, which I'm shooting or hitting with a knife right now, you'll see like the decal is not rotated at all relative to the camera. It's always like facing horizontal that way. And you won't notice if it's like a regular bullet, but for a knife, it's like direction dependent. So I'm also going to add in a slight modification to the global transform, which complicates things a little bit, but it's better if you want like a knife or some other type of bullet decal. Alright, so to fix the knife decal rotation thing, I'm going to add a couple parameters to the spawn bullet decal function. We're going to pass in a basis. So this will essentially be like the basis of the bullet raycast or like the player's camera. I think either one should work, but it's like a basis that is going to give us the proper forward alignment and like direction of the camera relative to the player, essentially. And I'm going to pass in the basis of the raycast. I think the camera would also work, but yeah, it's getting like the alignment of the bullet, so it's going to be rotated right. And then I'm also going to add this texture override, because probably would be pretty common that you're going to want to add like different types of decals that look different into your game. Like the knife is going to have one, most guns are going to have one, and maybe there will be, you know, many more for different type of guns, or maybe you'd want some type of variation. So I'm going to add in a texture override, which is going to default to null, and then we'll only like set the texture override if it's passed in. So I'm actually going to clear out this code here, and I'm still going to use the quaternion trick, but first I'm going to set the decal's global transform like this. So I'm going to still put it directly on the wall, but first I'm rotating it, the bullet decal, towards me, so on the X direction. So basically it will be like pointing towards the Z direction. And then, so this whole bunch of code right here. So basis dot rotated, rotate on the x-axis by 90 degrees, so it'll be pointing towards Z. And this vector 3 is just meaning no actual position. So just rotating it first on the X, and then we set the global transform to this bullet basis that we're going to pass in, and the global pose. So we rotate the bullet so it's like aligned with the camera, essentially, with this line. And then we set the decal instances transform with that. And then we're going to do the same quaternion trick here. The exact same code before that we had with the quaternions. We do decal instance global basis.y. Actually, this one's slightly different. But yeah, we're getting the current y direction, like so the current up direction relative to the bullet hole, and then rotating that towards the normal. We have to use global basis.y this time because we are already rotating it here first. So like we first want to rotate it aligned with the camera and then paste it onto the wall's normal. And then we get the make a basis out the quaternion, and then actually let me check, is this even necessary? I think you can just do multiply by the quaternion directly. No, you need to make it a basis. I was wrong. So yeah, you make the basis, which handles rotation and scale, from the quaternion, which quaternions usually handle just rotation. So you get the proper rotation onto the wall normal, and you multiply it by the current global basis, which is going to be aligned with the camera. And in that way, it's going to be pretty much always aligned properly with the camera. And then one last thing we can do is we'll set this texture override. So if texture override is texture 2D, then we can go to our decal instance, and then I think it's called the albedo. So the texture underscore albedo, texture underscore albedo, and we can set it to the texture override. And save that, and that should be all we need. And then also, because we changed the structure of the bullet decal function, I'm gonna also have to pass in the bullet basis here. Bullets or raycast dot global basis. And now if we try that, the knife decals should be like properly rotated with the camera. So yeah, so you can see, like, as we rotate, they're always going to be facing us, and it's like properly aligned on walls and stuff. Yeah, so this is good for like knife decals and stuff, because otherwise it looks really weird when you like slash a wall with a knife and your like slice is like aligned totally wrong. But yeah, that's all for the bullet decals. Just a pretty simple tutorial. And then obviously you don't need this at like 1,000, or the bullet decal, or you don't need this at 5. You could have it at least at like 1,000. The idea is just to limit, like, so it's not some like gargantuan number of bullet decals that, like, if players are like shooting for, you know, 20 minutes, maybe it builds up like an extremely massive array and then starts lagging your computer at a certain point, if you just have some insane amount of nodes. So the idea is just to limit it, and then we start reusing the previously placed bullet decals. So in that way, the bullet decals, they're basically going to stay there forever, until if the player like shoots an insane amount, then we'll like do some like performance limiting tricks to ensure that our game doesn't crash, essentially, because of like insane amounts of bullet decals everywhere. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. We have bullet decals now. Hopefully this tutorial helped you. I got more tutorials coming out for this FPS controller soon. I think the next one I'll probably do bullet trails. But I hope this helps someone. Rate, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.